Connecting external data to mWater used to mean hiring a developer, writing custom API code, and maintaining it forever. Now, you just type a sentence, and an AI builds the whole thing for you. Let me show you. With the newly released Integrator, importing and exporting data is easier than ever. On the import side, basically, you just need to describe what you need in plain language and possibly paste some documentation as context. The AI will then inspect the API structure, write the code for the import, and map the data automatically to the right kind of table structure in mWater. And then you can choose how frequently that data updates, whether it overwrites existing data or brings new data on top. On the export side, it's now super easy to create shareable API endpoints, so basically URLs that expose the data that you select as either CSV or JSON or GeoJSON for geospatial data, and you can then use other systems to pull that data through to business intelligence tools, mapping, many other things. All this work has been generously funded by UNICEF Madagascar and is now available to all users of our platform for free. So what does that mean? Here are some examples on the import and export sides. For example, you can use the importer to bring through borehole water level logger data, or DHIS2 health indicators such as cholera relevant to your work. You can bring through smart water meter data daily and weather and climate data. If there's a national MIS you're working with, you might be able to bring through data from there to overlay with the data you've got in the platform. Or some satellite data on drought, flood, etc. Water quality lab results, IoT sensors of various kinds, financial transactions from your accounting software, and the list goes on. On the export side as well, there's many things you can do. For example, a common use case is to take site and survey data and bring it to some business intelligence tool like Power BI or some GIS tool for advanced mapping purposes. Or you might take something at a summary level like water point functionality and export it to National MIS or DHIS2. You can bring out indicator values, water quality results, asset registries, or any kind of summary data for partners. It's entirely up to you. So, in this video, let's cover two examples. On the import side, let's look at weather and climate data. And on the export side, let's create a site and survey data combination or site and indicator and send it to Power BI. See how that works. Let's go. So here on the portal, I can find the integrator by going under Manage and selecting Integrations. I choose either an import or export integration. Let's begin with the import integration of some weather data. Here's a list of existing integrations. I can search them or I can create a new one. Let's create a new one. Here we have the import assistant. All data that gets pulled into tables in the platform needs to be in some workspace. So if you don't have one set up yet with the right permissions, you can do so. I will choose this demonstration one. You can create one here. The data source type is a simple selection. Typically, there's data that's being fetched from a URL from some other system. So basically, another system has some pathway for you to bring data through. The other option here is to use a webhook, which is something where the other system sort of knocks on the door of mWater or our platform and sends data through. That's for systems where there might be more real-time data and they wouldn't want our system asking for the latest data all the time. Has it arrived yet? Has it arrived yet? No, instead, when that new data is there, they could trigger this webhook and send the data over. But in this case, let's use the API. That's the most case. All we need to do then to begin the process is start writing what would we like to import. Well, let's say I'm interested in Lusaka, Zambia, and I want to bring some recent daily weather data to overlay with what I've got in the platform. So I could write import daily weather data from OpenMeteo. So this is a publicly available meteorological site. And for Lusaka, Zambia. And you can just change that to the location of your interest. I want daily precipitation, max and min temperature, and relative humidity for the last, let's say, 90 days. You can, as the instructions say, be as detailed as possible, and you can drag and drop documentation or any relevant information. The system will ask you for more. But for example, many APIs of other systems will have extensive documentation that you can paste here. Let's start the integration. It's asking for the destination table. Let's create a new table. Okay, the importer has created the right table structure. We have the date and the things I requested. It's chosen the right data types, date, number. It wrote a bunch of code. So we see example data coming through, not for everything. So we can save this and run it if we're happy with it. We can inspect the code if we like, but I could just ask it, I don't see data for all 90 rows, check. Or could make adjustments, ask for a 180-day window instead, or something else. So you don't have to get everything right on the first go. You have this dialogue with the AI to get things right. And you can come back to this and edit it later. Here we go. Now this example data has been pulled through properly, and I'm happy. So I'll save the integration. And now everything is ready to import. So here at the top, I can run this import now. I can edit it further if I want to change things. Let's run it. The AI has created a name, an accurate description, and now we have a schedule to choose. Manual means you will go here and trigger the running, but you could also use a daily, weekly, or monthly schedule to import it automatically. If you want to make changes to where the data is going, you would use the Edit with AI option. Here we see information about the latest import. According to this, as it succeeded with 91 rows. We can review the code, paste it into other systems if it's relevant, manage permissions for who can make changes to this import and who can view this import integration. That's not the same as seeing the data, however. And finally, we can delete the integration. So, okay, we've run the import integration. What does that mean? If we go to tables, so under manage, we should be able to find the table that was just created. Here we have it, Lusaka daily weather. I can open it and take a look. So this is the data that was brought in from OpenMeteo right now into the platform. And of course, if I wanted to use it in a dashboard, I can go and create a dashboard, create a chart, for example, and find the data source. And now let's pick the date as the horizontal axis and something like the precipitation sum. Okay. We can maybe summarize it by week. So we can get the total precipitation by week. Magnificent. So that's a simple example of an import integration. Let's move on to the exports. Now let's build an export integration to send WaterPoint functional information over to Power BI. The first step is to go to our integrations page under Manage. Select Export Integrations. Here you can see a list of existing integrations that you can see, and from the top you can create a new one. We will create a new one. So we want to export the water points we can see for Zambia and their functional status. I'll give the integration a name. Then I need to pick the data source. I know it's going to be water points, so that's the site I'd choose. Then the next step is to filter this data source to the water points I'm interested in. Let's say we're interested in the ones in Zambia. We could increase the limit, but let's keep it at 10,000 for the demo. We could add further filters such as type. Maybe I'll filter it down to only the functional ones, the ones that actually have functionality information, whether they're functional or not. How do I do that? I can go to related indicators and pick the relevant indicator. These are the indicators that have some connection to a water point. I'll click water point functional status, and then I see it up here in the schema. So I'll say the ones where it's not blank, for example. So that it has to have some functionality data. Then I'll add some columns. Let's say name, type, location, so GPS, and unique ID, as well as from the related indicator, the status itself, and then the date. Note that this and this now have the same name, so let's give this an additional classification, status date. Okay, we can order the data if we want, and then I will save the integration. Once I do that, I get this URL preview. And this URL is what you can use in your browser or the other system can use to access this data. You can choose the format, so we see it's comma-separated values, JSON or GeoJSON. Since I'm moving this to Power BI, maybe GeoJSON is handiest for geospatial data. I'll copy the URL, and then I can adjust permissions if I like. However, this is important. This URL is like an open pass to see the data that you've chosen, so the rows and columns that we defined. As it says here, anyone with the export URL can download the data regardless of these permissions. It's really down to having access to this URL. Because the idea is that the other system, you just give it that URL and then it has a pathway to bring the selected data from mWater over to that side. But if you've shared this link and you want to destroy it, you can reset the integration code here, and then all existing integrations will stop working, but you can still get a URL with the same specifications and make that work. Okay, so be careful with this URL. It's a powerful thing, but the power is exactly what makes it so easy to import to other systems. So let's jump over to Power BI and bring this data through. I'm now in the Power BI web version, creating a new report. I'll click Get Data. I just need to choose the data source. It's Web API, right? We're bringing it from another system online. I'll paste the source that I have and allow Power BI to fetch some data. Okay, now the data has loaded into Power BI, and we see that it's here, the geographical information is here, names, the functional status, and as well as the date. And it's only having the water points that have functional data because that's how I filtered it. So the data is, all it took was pasting the URL to get the data across. And then it's up to you to create a report on the basis of that. And the same principle applies to other systems. You create the export endpoint in mWater, and then in the relevant way in the other system, you can bring it through or use it in your custom coded solutions. So that covers the two sides of the integrator, import and export. Hopefully this is very useful to you. We're always open to feedback and iteration, so please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, suggestions, and remember to have a great day.